Hello, welcome to another Reasons and Resources episode. So in this episode we're going to look at reasons and resources for learning JavaScript. As always, I'm going to concern myself more with trying to motivate you to check out the resources rather than specifically give you examples of JavaScript code or even provide a sort of crash course in how to code in JavaScript. That's not the purpose of these videos. It's really to try and inspire you, to motivate you to check out different languages. And in this episode, we're going to be checking out JavaScript. So first of all, I'm just going to talk about some reasons why you should learn JavaScript, blended in with my own reasons for learning JavaScript. So I think the good term here is ubiquity. JavaScript is everywhere. Browsers, servers, mobile apps. It's, part of the structure of the web. And as you can see here, I don't know how accurate this statistic is, but 99% of websites use JavaScript on the client side for web page behavior. And it's been really interesting for me because I've seen the evolution of web pages from the early days when I was sort of tinkering around with a little bit of HTML and maybe some style sheet shenanigans. And back then, websites were pretty static. And you could do a few tricks here and there. And over time, as HTML has evolved and CSS has evolved, there's some extra little tricks you can do here and there. But really, where the dynamism came from was the addition into the mix of JavaScript. And then over time, that use has become, as I've said before, more ubiquitous. And so now it's everywhere. Now, if I think about when I had to learn it, as I like to say in anger, like formally, it was as part of a web applications development course with the Open University. A certificate, a Cert WAD, I think is the letters I ended up with on completing the course. And it was a number of modules on the course. And JavaScript came up in a couple of modules. One was to do with, not surprisingly, client-side development for the dynamic nature on the client side. And then the other time it came up again was in the context of learning active server pages. At the time, I'm not sure when I did the course whether Node.js was around or how advanced Node.js was. At that point, we weren't really using it specifically. But again, that's come online. And now, as it says here, if you want to use JavaScript for non-browser usage, then Node.js is a way in there to do that. Now, if we go back to the creation of JavaScript, you can see here it's very much tied to the creation of Mosaic and then Netscape Navigator. And it makes a point here about, during the formative years of the web pages could only be static. And then in 95, Netscape decided to add a programming language to Navigator. And this is where this person stepped in. And I've got a little link to a video later on which we'll talk about. And then we have this period, so it's adopted by Microsoft. And then Microsoft created its own interpreter called JScript. And then that, went on to be successful. And then we move into the world of the V8 JavaScript engine 2008 as part of its their Chrome browser, and so on. So it's matured. We'll take a look at this ECMA script as well, where you can find information about that. I won't touch too much on Node.js, but I'm going to include links to all of this stuff so you can go down the various rabbit holes. And you can see there's quite an interesting list here of scripted behavior. There we go. On the website client-side uses, so examples of scripted behavior. And then also the issue of libraries and frameworks that are utilized, leverages as part of client-side scripting. And then it goes on to talk a bit about embedded systems, those sort of things. So that's, one reason is just the sheer, it's everywhere, everywhere. Another reason is career opportunities. Because it's everywhere, if you take a look at some of the surveys that are done, and you know what my favourite one is, which is the Stack Overflow one, and you look at programming, scripting and markup languages, lo and behold, we have JavaScript right up the top there. Now, it's interesting, actually, you can sort of filter this and say, okay, look at the professional developers, people learning to code and other coders, so you can look at the different categories of coders that they interviewed or submitted a questionnaire as part of this. This comes out every year. But even if you're just talking about people that may be learning to code that aren't professional developers, it's still like, 3 down, Python's at the top there, other coders, at the top, professional developers at the top, overall at the top, alongside HTML, CSS. I was looking down this list and I was thinking to myself, you can't go too wrong with learning the top 4 here, I think. JavaScript, HTML, CSS, Python and SQL. Yeah, as a good starting point. And then if you look at the admired and desired, again, it's up there. So this side, if you wonder how this graph works, so you've got admired, percentage of people that admire it, percentage of people that desire it. And right up here we have Python again. Then we have JavaScript. So there's JavaScript, SQL, HTML, CSS, and so on. And Rust is up there. Wow. Admired by 8. Did I get that around the wrong way? Actually, sorry, I might have flipped that. So admired 67, desired 41, admired 58, desired 39, and so on. What's down the bottom? Zephyr. Oh, and COBOL. It's also, a very versatile language. You can use it to, as you've probably seen, the sort of things that have come up. Simple scripts, complex applications. It's really flexible. There's a vast ecosystem out there, libraries and frameworks that just help, make the development easier. And relatively speaking, it's fairly easy to learn. There's a lot of online support, which really helps. And the syntax is pretty beginner friendly, I think. Or we'll maybe look at a little bit, see if we've got here. So if you've not seen it before, this looks rather stretched out here, but you can see some examples of what the code might look like. It's very simple. And then here, and here again, like what a function might look like for factorial and then anonymous functions. Objects, you can do objects in there, so and so on. So in terms of resources to sort of set you on the right path, well, one thing you can do is just go to the Mozilla Development Network. That's whenever I do these videos, I always suggest like start off with the main source, if you like. And so it makes sense to go straight to Mozilla, the Mozilla Development Network, and you can find like really comprehensive and authoritative resources in terms of documentation, tutorials. And in fact, you could go down this rabbit hole and just spend all your time in here and probably not go anywhere else. It's also got really useful links out. I'll include a link to this, and also I'll include a direct link on the same website to the JavaScript reference and also the ECMA International Standard. And you can download the standard, I think. Let's have a look. Sometimes with this, it's some of these standards that there's a paywall for some things like ISO standards. There we go. There we go. So if you really like to go down a standards rabbit hole, some people do. I've had lots of dealings myself with standards over the year in terms of British standards, ISO, FDA stuff. Things like Ticket, which was an early software quality assurance framework, I think. I don't know what currently is there. I think it's changed now. Yeah, so you go down that rabbit hole. So I'll also include that as a link in the descriptions section of the video. Also, you've got this javascript.info. So a modern tutorial for everything JavaScript, from basics to advanced topics. You can work your way through if that's the way you like to learn. And what I'm trying to do in these episodes is I'm trying to avoid every episode sort of repeating the same resources, because I know stuff, there's certain websites which have lots of languages on them. So obviously I'm not saying don't check out websites like Tutorials Point or all the other ones that I'm sometimes mentioning in other videos, like what's it called? It's gone now. Exorcism, those sort of sites. You'll find JavaScript resources on there, but what I want to do in each of these episodes when I talk about different languages is try and bring a number of different websites to people's attention which collect together stuff. So then there's Free Code Camp, and they have a pretty extensive curriculum. You can sign in to save your progress, and you can actually go through these verified certifications for the core curriculum. I'm trouble saying that. Now, of course, they touch on other languages here beyond just JavaScript, but maybe if you just wanted to have a look at the JavaScript one, you could. And you can see here we go in and we can actually start doing some coding. I do like those sort of interactive websites where you can do that. Now, the other thing I always try and recommend is sort of one online book resource that's fairly up to date, that's free and doesn't involve any dodgy shenanigans with copyrighted material. So it's rather nice that Eloquent JavaScript, there is a website version of this, of the 4th edition 2024, which you can read for free online. Now, of course, I am very tempted now because, as you know, I do enjoy paper copies of books, and I must admit I do like No Starch Press as a publisher, so I am suitably tempted. Every year I make a point of buying at least one programming book. At Christmas I sometimes buy other books during the year, and so I've got a number of books that I put on my Christmas list, and this probably I'll add to it. I think also on there at the moment I've got what was I thinking of adding recently? I think I was going to add the Lua one, because that's now there's the 4th edition of that. It's been out for quite a while actually, and there was one other one I was thinking of the other day that I wouldn't mind owning. So I'm just going to keep adding this to my Christmas list and choose a book. But yeah, so if you like to work yourself. If you like to work through books like I do, that's primarily what I tend to like to do, is work through a book in combination with some sort of either locally installed copy of the programming language or online resources, and do it that way rather than necessarily follow videos. I mean, there are some things where I do courses with videos on them. A good example is the CS50 group of courses that are through edX with Harvard. Those are very good. And indeed, I think there is a web development course, one of those, a web development specialism on there as well, which goes into some frameworks. But if you're after an online book, this is pretty good. So in terms of videos, I try and stick here with just interesting videos where they're talking about aspects of the language rather than necessarily YouTube tutorials. If you just go on and type in JavaScript tutorials, they're really easy to find. But I prefer to just sort of point out certain videos that I've stumbled across that look really interesting. So I often have a look and see if there's ever been a computer file video. And indeed, there's one discussing Node.js. So if, like me, maybe you started on JavaScript a lot earlier than Node.js, and you're curious as to, what that affords you, because you haven't really been playing around with JavaScript for a while, then this might be quite a nice video to watch. We've then got a brief history of JavaScript. This one's 6 years old. It's a free code camp video. And so it's the same people as produced where did I put it? This here that I was looking at. And it's a brief history with the creator. It is 6 years old, but even so, I love listening to the sort of foundation stories of languages. It really interests me, so that's cool. And then also, in terms of a channel, there is JSConf channel, which has a number of videos from various JS conferences. Again, you can check out. And then finally, I always like to do a couple of podcast resources. So one is something called JavaScript Jabber, and you can access through Apple Podcasts. It's also on Spotify as well. And then we've also got JS Party, which is also, I know it's definitely on Spotify, but you can also access it through here, through changelog.org. So there we go. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and that might inspire you to check out, if you're teetering on the edge, to check out JavaScript. Hopefully it will sort of push you in the right direction and get you looking into and checking out those resources. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.